Yeah, we're live. Okay.
We're on.
Let me give a brief of the case. The case describes the dilemma of a marketing manager, Thomas Green, who after being rapidly promoted to a new position is harshly criticized by his boss. Green and his boss disagree on work styles and market projections. Green believed the sell goals set by his boss are based on creative accounting and grossly overstated the current market environment. A mood of silent conflict develops between Green and his boss, and Green is concerned that his boss is building a case to fire him. Green's situation is one in which his failure to adapt his work style and fully understand the demands and boundaries of his new position made his discharge. So to start out, what do you guys see is the key issue in the case? Kathleen, why don't you go first?
Sure. I think there's quite a few key issues. One, I think he was promoted too quickly. Two, I think he's lacking the training and supervision or guidance that he needs to transition into the role successfully. Two, he's not. Three, he's not taking the advice of the woman that ultimately hired him, because she cautioned him and said, you lack the experience, the management experience, so I would suggest that you take some lessons, so to say, from seasoned managers, and that you learn from them. And he totally tried to just go out and do his own thing without asking for help or looking for advice.
Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
Yeah, I think one thing about this case that really stuck out to me was kind of all the things that Kathleen said, but I felt like a lot of it just boiled down to his own personal pride. He was just seeing himself as an individual unit, just what's the fastest way I can rocket to the top. And so he kind of like didn't care about any casualties, any fallouts. He just kind of was like, wow, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it, which was, I thought, a very odd attitude to have, being a new hire still. Like, he's still within the first year of working for the company. And so I thought that was very odd, that kind of behavior, and that if he let go of that pride and kind of like, all right, I'll listen to what McDonald's told me or what my boss is telling me, or even just some of my peers and just the clients. Like, if I listen to those people, then if he'd even just had that attitude, it would have gone a lot differently.
Okay. Barb, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think they covered it pretty well, the main issues.
Carla, anything?
Well, my internet was cutting off when Kathleen was talking, so if I repeat anything, I apologize, just let me know. But something that I thought was interesting was, hold on, let me just pull it up. Oh yeah, it's how he mentioned, like, all these, like the projected numbers that it wasn't possible to achieve, but how he spoke to other managers about it. Like, I don't really think he spoke to his own manager, Davis. I mean, yeah, he said it wasn't capable of doing it, but he wasn't very, well, this is why I don't think this is possible, and here are my numbers, this is what I think. But he just spoke to other managers that had nothing to do with him and what he was doing. And I didn't like how he approached that situation. He just talked about other people, not in front of them. And yeah, that was one of my concerns, the problem analysis.
Yeah, I think Carla makes a good point when she states that he really should have had better communication with him and tried to schedule a meeting. Like, he could have in the meeting said, well, I don't really agree with your projections. Can we talk about how you came to those numbers, separately? So he could still, it's appropriate if you're in a meeting to disagree. I mean, you're allowed to do that, but not to try and, he kind of tried to do it underhandedly, where he disagreed with him openly in the meeting, and then he went around his back and started talking to all the other people, saying, how could he, where is he getting these numbers from? This is impossible, where he should have taken a different approach to it.
Yeah, that was interesting to me far as his demeanor. He totally got in there and, you know, just started doing things on his own, didn't follow any counsel or advice that he was giving. And then in that meeting, he and this is something I wrote down in the comments that I put together in my case study, was that he really should have gone and got some numbers himself and then requested to meet in private and then sit down and go over the numbers with them so that they could come to an agreement some way or another, so where they could work together. But it was like he was totally on his own. So, all right, this next question: if you were Shannon McDonald, would you have hired Thomas Green? Why or why not? Barb, why don't you start us out?
I just think that whole concept of how she met him, he really dazzled her and really tried strongly to get this position as the market specialist. And he succeeded. He definitely succeeded. I think she sort of did not utilize all of her leadership skills, and went above and beyond that, and went out of the policies and procedures of recruiting. So I feel I would have not. If that was me,
Okay.
I probably would have thought a little deeper on that subject.
Katie, would you have hired him?
Yeah,
or not?
I was just reading over that part again where it talks about it. I don't want to use the word bully, but it seems like she was almost kind of just talked into hiring him. It said that he repeatedly talked to her about giving him the position. And I feel like the biggest red flag is that he'd only worked there for 4 months. And so I don't feel like that's enough time with the company to really know, like, yeah, he's showing that he's doing really well. So what I would think is, you know what, you're doing great, so you're probably up for a promotion next year instead of in 2 years. And so that's kind of how I would see it. Like, you know, you're a shoo-in for next year's promotions, but not this year, because that would kind of understand how things work in the company so that these kind of problems wouldn't arise where he finally has a position of power and just kind of goes nuts with it and doesn't listen to anyone. So I think I would have kept him in mind for the future, definitely, because of the progress that he had made in the sales and everything, but I would not have promoted him so quickly. And the comment she made when he was hired, like, oh, by the way, he thought that Davis thought he was going to be hiring someone and he never would have picked you, so I guess try to get along. And I was like, that's...
Yeah, I thought that was a little odd myself.
Yeah, I was like, why didn't you just talk to him? Like, I don't know. I just thought it was weird. I was like, okay, whatever.
All right.
So yeah, that's what I thought.
Kathleen, lay it on us.
Well, I think the way that she went about it created some of the friction in the relationship between Davis and Thomas. Like, she added to it because of what Katie said, that he thought he was going to be hiring the person. So, but I can see why she went and hired him. You know, it does say that before you're a senior market specialist, you're supposed to be a market specialist. We are told in the case study that when he was recruited by the company, so they actively recruited him away from another company, that his intention was to make a good impression and to start climbing the ladder. So he was, I think he made it known that he was going to be aggressively seeking a promotion. So they recruited him away from another company because they knew how good he was in sales, and he proved himself within just 4 short months. So I think McDonald, is that what her name was, McDonald?
Yeah.
She wanted to try and keep him happy, and I can understand wanting to keep a top salesperson happy and not have him leave the company. So I can understand why she did it, and if I was in her position, I probably would have done the same thing, but I probably would have tried to incorporate Davis into it, so that way it kind of seemed like he was more involved in the decision and had more at stake.
Yeah, he was kind of left out of the whole picture, and then he was just handed a young man that was enthusiastic and full of whatever, you know, and he just didn't want to listen to anybody.
Yeah.
Carla, Would you have hired him?
No.
Why
I
not?
just thought that his strength was definitely sales, and I feel like he used that strength to get the promotion by selling himself and selling everything that he was doing right. And I think he is a good salesperson. I just don't think he's a good manager. And I don't think they would be able to tell just by him, like Katie was saying, just working 4 minutes in a sales position. I wouldn't have hired him. I would have definitely waited and made sure that he was up to it, that he knew what he was in charge of coming into it, that Davis had a say in it. But I wouldn't have hired him.
I think what you said about him not having the management skills is true, and I think McDonald knew that, and that's why she cautioned him. You lack the experience of being a manager. So she knew that he didn't have what was necessary to succeed in the position, but she was trying to tell him, because she knew how aggressive he was, that you have to actively go out and get these skills, and you have to get them from somebody that has the experience. So I think she was hoping that he would have transitioned a little bit better.
You know, I sat there and looked at this, and I felt like she made a huge mistake. I wouldn't have hired him. I didn't think he met any of the qualifications. He was only 28 years old, brand new. You know, these guys have been in their careers. They were in their 40s, had been there for years before they ever got advanced to this kind of a position. I would have kind of mentored him a little bit and put him in a situation where you could have really worked with him and tried to build him up, and then given him smaller promotions, but nothing to the extreme where he was. It was interesting to see how he was able to go in there and really politic, because that's what he did. He went in there, knew who he needed to talk to, he knew what he needed to say, and because they hit it off, because they were Georgia alumni, she instantly took him under her wing and kind of walked along with him and helped him. And then he kept going back over months and visiting with her, and just kind of, I think that relationship just kind of built into a better friendship than anything else. And so then when he found out the position had come open, then he really pursued her heavily and really convinced her that because of this one sale that he had, that he had a great relationship and he was going to be able to do it. And for her to say, hey, you're walking into kind of a tricky situation, he wouldn't have hired you, don't let me down, she totally set him up to fail. And I thought, you know, that's a sad situation, because he had all kinds of potential. He has all kinds of talent, but he just needed to be seasoned a little more before he was given this kind of a situation. So that's kind of what thought process is on that.
I hear what you're saying, but I think the one thing that maybe we're overlooking is what he actually brought to the company, which McDonald realized. So they drew him away from another company. So they got him to leave, right? And he was successful in getting them probably the biggest account that they had seen. I don't even know, it doesn't say, but it does tell you that the account that he was able to close within 3 months was one of the biggest.
It said that he was able to accelerate the rollout in 20 airports and purchased upgraded software for a kiosk in the majority of their location.
Right, but right before that, they give a description of the company that he was able to.
He worked at a banking division focusing on ATM sales. It's on page 2, right there under Thomas Green, Path to Senior Market Specialist.
Right, but they tell about the company that he was able to close the deal with.
It's completed a contract for one of the largest airline carriers, Journey Airlines.
Right.
To accelerate the rollout.
So I mean, that if you try and think of from McDonald's standpoint, like this was a huge account for the company. So I can just try and see her thinking in the back of her mind, well, this guy, you know, was able to close this deal. Who else is going to hear about how successful he was in such a short time? Are they going to try and grab him away from us? So let's try and keep him happy and promote him so that way we can get him to stay and develop his management skills, you know, while he's here. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, the interesting thing though is why was Shannon the only one involved in hiring him? How come she didn't involve?
Well, it was her, and then the national. It also said that it was the national. Let me get her that position.
She's the vice president of something.
Right. It was the vice president,
Or-
national sales director, Mary Jacobs. They were the two that wanted to get to know him at that week-long training that he went to. They made it a point to get to know him.
But then he met with McDonald by herself.
Right.
For quite a while. You know, it didn't really say that anybody else was involved, and I thought it was really interesting that Davis wasn't ever included in any of the conversations. And then
Yeah.
to say, oh, by the way, he wouldn't have hired you. You know, and then if there's any fallout that might result, you're going to have to deal with it on your own. So
Yeah. I try and relate it to my own position where, you know, I've got directors and managers that are above me several layers. And if one of them said, this is going to be your new salesperson, you know, deal with it or work with them, I would try and do everything I could to make sure that that person was successful, but I would still be like, well, why wasn't I included in the decision?
yeah.
But so you really, when somebody that's that many levels above you says, this is who this person's going to fill this position, you really can't, there's nothing you can do about it.
No, I just think that they probably should have had some kind of policy or procedure in place where they should have had some kind of a screening committee that would have, you know, received applications, be able to really screen through those, make sure the person was met the criteria that they were looking for, and then be able to have an interview. They just brought him right up and promoted him without any other individuals being talked to. So that's where I'm kind of struggling with the whole idea of what she did. So
All of that was probably in place, but this woman said, here it is. This is the guy who's going to take the position. I mean, it's in a real life situation. That's what happens. I mean, you have an HR department that screens all the applicants before you get to even interview them. But if the vice president of the department says, hey, this is my buddy's son, John Smith, and he's going to be working with you now, he totally bypassed the whole procedure, and now he's a new employee, and you have to deal with it.
No, I understand where you're coming from, and it's one of those situations that, you know, it just leaves you wondering.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not specific there.
Yep.
All right, let's go on to the next part. It says, describe Frank Davis. What does he value? Who wants to take a stab at that one? Frank Davis.
I think what he values is order. If he wants everything to work. I don't think he's a overboard micromanager. I don't think he's a micromanager. I think things work better when they're organized. And so the way that he just kind of, Green just kind of blasts through things and doesn't let him know what's going on, doesn't write reports, I think that makes him really nervous because he feels like this is not how things work. We can't work well without this kind of like organization and teamwork. And I think that's kind of what I understood. Like, he likes that order. He likes, like, there's a certain way we do things and we have to follow those rules. And I don't think they're unreasonable. I think they make pretty good sense. It's like, I just need to know how to get a hold of you because you're my employee, and then I need you to give me reports when I ask you for them. I need data so I can present them to our customers. So there's just little things like that where he just thought things should work in a certain way, and they weren't.
So what do you think his end goal is? What do you think he's after? What goal he is after?
It seems like he wants him to fail so that way he can fire him and get whoever he wanted in the position.
Well, I think that he has goals in his department, and he has things to accomplish, and he was trying to do that because he said in the one area that it was up to I forget what it was exactly, that he had, that's when, in that meeting, the budget meeting, when Green didn't agree with him, he said that it was up to, corporate expects this division to be growing, a growth of engine for the company. And he's trying to meet those requirements and go forward with his department. And by doing so, he has to mandate his staff, and the staff has to act appropriately with it. And he even gave him an example of a woman who is also the same position as Green, and what she has been doing in order to think outside the box and to uphold the data needed to do presentations for these meetings and so forth. So I think he was trying. I don't think he completely wanted him to fail.
He was impressed with them there at the start. Remember when they first started working together and they had actually gone and visited with different clients? And he just kind of told him, he says, hey, you've got a tremendous ideas mindset, but you need to come up with the actual backup to be able to help these clients understand where you're coming from. So I think he admired him, thought he was very capable of doing the job he'd been assigned, but he ran into the fact that all of a sudden now this individual's going to guess, he's avoiding him. He's not following what he asked him to do when he first met with him. So, I kind of felt like Frank Davis his value was that he wanted the company to progress. He wanted to see success, and his end goal was that he wanted his team to be successful. That was kind of what I perceived of him. He did get off on the wrong foot there with Thomas, but looking at what he had done, who knows how long he had been in that role. Here he really was trying to make something happen. So, Carla, do you see anything there from what anybody said?
I think he had a lot of expectations, which wasn't bad. He just knew what he expected out of the people he worked with, which I kind of liked, because day one he told them, this is what I expect of you. You're going to have to get familiar with the market data yet, but I do expect you to learn it. And I as an employee, I would appreciate that. Like, this is what I have to learn. This is what I have to focus on. This is what he wants, so I'm going to make sure that I, prioritize that. So I don't think he was a bad guy. I also liked how he was very open. Even with the emails that he sent McDonald's, he CC'd him, which I don't know if he had to do or not, but there was no room to wonder with him. He spoke his mind in the meeting. He's like, hey, this is what you need to improve on. This is what you're doing well in. So I kind of liked Davis in that aspect of it.
I liked him a lot too, because I thought that, like you said, he set up those expectations. So it wasn't necessarily like he's trying to set him up to fail, but he wanted him to succeed. And he met with him a couple times. He did that evaluation for long, which is a really long time to be talking to someone about what they need to improve. But he took the time to do it because he wanted him to do his job well. And then he met with him again 3 months later. And so if he just didn't care and just wanted to get rid of him, he wouldn't have done that. He would have just been like, okay, I'm just going to make notes of everything he does and send it to the boss so they can fire him. But he really did want him to improve, because I think he recognized as well how valuable his input were. But it doesn't matter. I think what I wrote in my write-up was saying that no one cares how well you do your job or how much you bring into the company if you cannot even follow instructions from the boss. I feel like that would be a huge red flag for any higher up. Like, okay, that's cool that you do all this stuff, but how do I know that you're going to listen to what I say? And so, yeah.
Well, that leads us right into the next portion of this, Katie. It says,
okay.
what does Thomas value, and what is his end goal? What in the end is he after?
Personal success.
Okay, who said that, Carla, or was that Katie?
Yeah, No, that was me. I think he's very, like, it kind of reminded me of the book that we're reading, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I forgot her name. Mikey.
Oh,
And
yeah.
how, like, Mikey, she has, like, her own agenda. And, like, she doesn't really care about the team. She doesn't care about the overall results. She's more focused on what she's doing, her team, marketing. If things aren't, like, within marketing, then that's not her problem. So I feel like he's kind of, like, the same. He's kind of, like, he still has that sales mentality. So he's only focused on sales. Like, his first day, all he was doing was, like, looking at the sales from the past 2 years. And even when he was meeting with clients, all he would do is, like, sell them the idea. But then, like, the numbers behind it, there was nothing there. So I think he's just very, like, into what his role, I guess, used to be. And he just wants to move up for himself. He wants to do great for himself. He wants to be promoted for himself. Like, I didn't really see a team spirit in him at all.
I thought it was interesting that his comment was he wanted to come in and dazzle them. You know, so he wanted to impress from the start, and he was going to do everything he could to make sure they noticed him, and when they did, then that's when everything worked out for him. Barbara, what do you have down there for as far as what does he value, and then what in the end, what is the end goal he is after?
I agree with everybody else. I feel he was after his own individual needs and wants as far as positioning within the company. And he was going to measures that not probably, I think, professional in order to achieve these things. And as Carlos said, he was self-centered and thinking only of himself on this. And his goal was to be an executive at the end. That's what he had said. That was his goal. He wanted to go up the ladder.
Okay. Kathleen?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone else has been saying, that he definitely was stuck in that salesman personality or role where he was trying to do everything himself, and he had to change focus. And that's what McDonald was trying to steer him towards, saying that he lacked the management experience. So as a manager, you try and help your team get the results that you're looking for and not do it yourself. And I think that's, one of the things that he lacked was trying to coach and develop the team to be able to produce the results. And that's what Davis was trying to help him with by saying, look, you need to provide backup to these things that we're going in and talking to customers about. You need to do presentations and have concrete data, so that way when the customers want to be able to tell their superiors why they need this, that they have supporting documentation as to why it's a justifiable expense for them to spend the money on it. And I think that was something that he thought that his skill as a salesperson was going to be enough to close the deal, and that he wasn't going to need all of that.
Okay, let me ask this next question. So how do the actions of Tom differ from the expectations of Frank Davis?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
How do the actions of Thomas Green differ from the expectations of Frank Davis? I think we've kind of touched on it in a roundabout way. Frank Davis wanted to meet certain goal criteria, and Thomas to go out and do his own thing. He was looking more at the sales instead of how they were going to actually achieve the goals that they had put in place. He disagreed because of the account analysts who were saying that the market wasn't in the condition that it was needing to be able to have them succeed, and so that's where he was tiptoeing around talking to other people outside of the team. And so you could see that they were totally there was a lack of trust, there was a lack of communication, there was a lack of interest as far as the goal of the team succeeding together. There was just all kinds of components that I saw where the actions were totally different from the expectations. Does anybody see that any differently?
No, I think what you said is correct, and I think Davis was also trying to get Tom to think outside the box and to come up with different strategies in order for them to be able to reach their goals. instead of just trying to fulfill them by his sales skills alone. And he was trying, and Davis was trying to get him to look in that direction. But it doesn't seem like Tom took hold of what he was talking about.
Also, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I thought that was someone talking. Also, he would do his own little thing. Like Davis gave him a duty to go to the VIP hotel group and to talk with them in regarding the kiosks, why they haven't been purchasing any. And he just ignored that. He didn't follow through with certain assignments that were given to him.
Okay, anybody have anything else they want to add to that?
Nope.
Okay, so who is mostly at fault for the state of the current situation? Who would we say is mostly at fault? Would it be Davis? Would it be Thomas? Would it be Shannon?
I think they're all
Who would
equally
you
at
say
fault.
would be?
I would spread it out between the three of them. McDonald shouldn't have really hired him, or Davis should have had a training program, and Tom should have been more willing to want to learn. So I think they were all culpable to a certain degree.
Okay.
I hold them all responsible.
Anybody else have any comment on that?
I'm reluctant to put a lot of blame on Davis. I'm sure there definitely was something he could do, but I felt like he did kind of follow the steps of addressing the problem to the best of his ability, but maybe he could have done a little bit more. But if I could do percentages, I think I'd place most of it, I don't want to think of numbers actually, I'd place most of the blame on Thomas, and then in order to put it, Thomas, Shannon, and then Frank. That's how I'd spread it out. And so,
Okay. Barbara, you see it the same way?
Well, I definitely would put a lot on Green because he didn't uphold to the things that he needed to do in order to sustain himself in that position. And McDonald, I still feel that she should not have hired him and put everyone in that position. And I did feel that Davis did try. I think he did try to uphold a lot of the managerial requirements that he needed to do, but he needed some help in some areas. He allowed some things get to him and didn't, that he could have handled better. But I rate it just like Katie said, Green, McDonald, and then Davis.
I think also one of the things that keeps coming back to me when I read the case study is it says that Davis was in the position that Green had. So he had been promoted to his position, and that's why the position was vacant. So he knew what it took to be successful in that position because he successfully was promoted. So I think, if you're going along that whole team mentality and trying to, do what's best for the company, that he could have been a little bit more proactive in trying to rein Tom in and try and steer him and direct him in the right direction. I mean, meeting with him once in a 3-month period for a review by a superior, that's for a new position. I meet with my superior once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, so once in 3-month period to tell you what you're doing wrong and you got to do better, that doesn't cut it for me.
Yeah. Okay. So what actions would you take if you were Thomas Green? If you were Thomas and you found yourself in the situation that you're in right now, what actions would you take?
No, I think if I were in Thomas's situation, I'd have to take I feel like this has probably been a bit of a wake-up call for him, like, oh, I'm about to lose my job. And so I think the biggest thing he has to do is take a step back and really kind of look at the situation, not from, I'm the victim, I'm just trying to do the best job I can, no one likes me. And so I think he needs an attitude adjustment. He needs to learn to follow directions. That's basically all it boils down to.
Okay. Carla, you see it in there? What kind of action would you take if you were in that position? If you
Well,
were
for one,
Thomas?
I think Davis gave him a lot of feedback, even in his first one-on-one. There was a lot of things that he could have implemented from the get-go, from the start. The things about the market analysis, information, the PowerPoints, the slides. Just do what he's been told to do, not just have, and they also wanted him to focus on the web check-in, and he's doing other things, thinking the other things are more valuable than the web check-in. So I would just be, I guess, like obedient and just be like, hey, you're my superior, you're my boss, you know what you're doing, you were doing what I was doing, so you know more than me, so I'm going to do what you tell me to do. I mean, that's what I think.
Okay. Anybody else have anything you want to add to that?
I basically said in my my report that I submitted that he has to rebuild the relationship with Davis. So right now they're not on good terms. They're not talking. He's trying to avoid him. He thinks that Davis is trying to fire him. So I basically said he needs to humble himself and go to Davis and say, look, you gave me some good suggestions. I didn't take them. You were in the position that I have right now, so you know what needed to be done to be successful. I'm sorry I wasn't listening to you. I'm willing to try and change my ways if you're willing to work with me, because he's obviously going to keep messing up. I mean, it's a new position for him, and he doesn't have the management skills. But if he can be honest with them and say, I'm willing to learn if you can be patient with me and teach me. And I think he also needs to apologize to McDonald, because she's been hearing all these things about this person that she hired. You know, she went out on a limb and she gave him the position. So he needs to apologize to her and let her know, you know, I didn't take your advice, get the, you know, the experience that I needed from somebody that was seasoned, and I'm willing now to try and mend those relationships with Davis and try and work with him.
I think those are good thoughts, and he started realizing that he was going to be buying a house. He was going to, I don't know if he meant possibly get married, because he had his girlfriend that they were all going to relocate and so forth. So I think he was realizing that, you know, maybe he did need to do something. He did need to step up. And I like your.
It was definitely a wake-up call for him, you know, as you read the end or even that opening paragraph where he takes a big deep breath in February, that cold air, and he's wondering, what have I done? You know, what have I done? This fantastic career I've got right here at my fingertips is just about to go away. And you know, he's doing some deep soul thinking there as far as his situation and what he could have done differently. And I think he needs to request a meeting immediately and go in with a different attitude and say, you know, I've messed up. What can I do to straighten this thing out? You know, I'm willing to listen, to apply anything that you'd like me to do. Just show a willing attitude, because he didn't have that from the start.
Yeah.
Any whatsoever. All right. So the next question it asks is, how does power and office politics come into play?
Well, we saw the power in office politics because McDonald went ahead and hired him and just didn't, you know, she didn't consider anybody else. So she was at the top of the chain, so she just did whatever she wanted.
It says the hint is content or topic, and then what does each person want? You know, they were all, as far as Davis was concerned, he wanted Thomas to comply. He wanted him to listen. You have Thomas that's totally being hard-headed and doing whatever he wants to do. You know, he's not following through, keeping a calendar where they can track where he's at. He's not responding to emails. He's not giving reports back like they're requesting. I mean, there's just a number of things. So he's, I guess the word that I'm looking for him is he's in subordination. He's not even willing to do what he's asked.
Yeah,
And
he
then
thinks
you have Shannon.
he's untouchable because he's a superstar, you know? He's got that,
Yeah.
you know. the big boss wants me in this position. I'm so
And
great.
so he, you know, then you have Shannon that sets him up to fail. Yeah. Okay, so here we have another thing. What are each of their conflict styles?
What are what?
So the hint is competition. Characterized by their conflict styles. So you have characterized by aggressive or uncooperative behavior is one of the things. Compromise, each party gives up something to gain something. Avoidance, disassociation, ignoring or discounting the conflict, and cooperation together to find a common resolution. Well, none of them did that. Avoidance, you definitely had Thomas avoiding Davis. He wasn't around after he had that first evaluation. Nobody was willing to give anything up. You know, I mean, they were both pretty hard-headed when it came time for that second review. So anybody see anything differently there as far as their conflict styles?
I felt like McDonald had a little bit of the collaboration one with the email that she received from Davis the second time. She emailed Green and asked him, like, hey, like, I want to hear your point of view. I heard Davis's. What do you have to say for yourself? Like, what's your side of things? What can we do to make it work? So I felt like she handled it pretty well with, like, including him in the process of decision making and trying to work with him.
I like that take.
And I
Katie?
think that I'm
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead, Barb. Go ahead.
I think that Green had the avoidance ones because he did not want to perform the assignments that were given to him, and he avoided it by doing things that he felt were important to do, like going to Orlando and going to New York, and completely not abiding by one of the assignments that Davis gave. So he was more in the avoidance or ignoring, and just as far as a conflict.
Katie, you have anything you want to share there?
I've been cutting out for most of this question, so hopefully what I say is relevant. But hopefully I caught what it was about. But oh shoot, I just had them. I forgot what it was. But talking about the conflict. Oh shoot. You might want to move on. I totally forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
All right. Well, let's go on to this next situation then. What should he do now? He's found himself in this situation. You know, he's afraid he's going to get fired. So what should he do? Should he go turn in a letter of resignation and get the heck out of there, or should he humble himself and approach those that are his bosses and try to reconcile what he's gotten himself into?
I think I agree with what Kathleen said before.
What do you
that
think, Barbara?
I think that he should, I agreed with Kathleen before that he should humble himself and go talk with them and try to make amends, go forward from that, you know, improve his situation from there forth.
So how can he salvage the situation now? I think he'll get himself talked out of this.
Well, he talked himself into it, so he should be able to talk himself
He's
out
a
of it.
pretty
But
good
it's-
salesman, isn't he? Isn't he already known to have an ability to really be able to talk and
But all he doesn't deliver anything as far as like the things that they've asked him to do. So you can't just say, "Oh, please, like I'm so sorry." Like, so yes, I haven't fired him yet, so he has to start like immediately, like following the next day, total 180. Has to start. Okay, you want these reports? I'll do this. You want me to go do this? I'm there. And so he has to like show with his actions, and as well as with his words, because that's what got him into this mess.
What do you think, Kathleen?
Yeah, I agree with her. He has to have a totally, you can't just go in there and apologize and just keep doing the same thing he was doing. He has to actually change his actions. So he has to walk the talk.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's do a little role play. We're gonna have Carla. She's gonna be Davis, and Kathleen, you're gonna be Thomas. So you're gonna go and you're gonna approach your boss, and we're gonna role play this, and then we're gonna kind of have a little fun with this situation. So, Carla,
Oh, you said
you've
Carla?
got Thomas needs to talk to you.
Okay, so Frank, I got your email, and I have to say I'm just a little bit surprised that this has turned into be such a serious situation. I didn't really realize how bad I was acting or not performing, and I wanted to come to you and try and see what it is that I can do, try and be better at my job. And I understand that you can give me some feedback, and maybe I didn't take it to heart and was doing something different. I want you to know that this job is really important to me, and I want to be successful at it, and I want to be able to learn from you how to be successful. Would you be willing to work with me to that endeavor?
You said Carla, right?
Yeah, you.
Okay. It kept cutting off. Well, I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your willingness to want to learn and to want to get better. I just haven't seen a lot of positive actions from the feedback that I have given you, so I'm a little reluctant to give you any more feedback because I don't know if you're going to do it or not. I don't know if you care about it up to this point that you proved that to me by saying it. But I do appreciate that. I am willing to work with you. I do think that you have really good ideas. I think the clients like you. But like I was telling you before, you really do need the analysis for the marketing program. You need to have the numbers to back up everything that you're saying. And I would appreciate if you would trust me more, because I have been where you are right now. So if anyone knows how to do your job, it's going to be me, because I was doing it. So I would just appreciate if you would just listen and to really take my feedback, try to be better, and just try to improve. I would really appreciate that on your end.
Thank you very much, Frank. I appreciate your honesty, and I'm willing to try and work with you to get all that accomplished. How'd we do? Did I lose my house?
Yes.
You did good. You did good. That was a good situation to do a role play in. You guys did great. So, in kind of in conclusion of this deal, we want to know what kind of a gospel connection is kind of a gospel put into it.
I think the gospel connection is that you have to really humble yourself when you realize that you're in the wrong and be willing to say it.
It's kind of how you always hear how you think you can do it on your own, and so you keep trying to do it on your own, but after a while you finally get to the point where you realize you've actually dug yourself into a huge hole. So you need help, where from a gospel perspective you need the help of Jesus Christ to get us out of those holes that we dug ourselves into because of pride. And so
Okay, Barb, any?
he had, but now he kind of has to. Oh, did it cut out? It was kind of cutting out for me. Sorry, but yeah, I don't know how much of that you all caught, but I'm sorry about the music in the background. They started playing here, but yeah, the point being that like when we fall into these bad habits that dig us into these holes, we we'll have people like friends or family or church leaders who try to help us. And so realizing like, okay, I'm not so far, like I can't be so prideful that I can't go to them for help. And so I don't know. It's kind of what I thought.
Perfect. Barbara, any input there?
The only other thing that I thought of is as far as gospel, are we still on the gospel connection? Okay. As far as adding to the humbling yourself and admitting your errors is to also forgiveness. That things have happened throughout this whole period of time that they need to start anew. So by starting anew, you have to forgive and go forward. So that would be another thought.
Great points. Very important points. So how does this connection between this case and this week's reading assignment, are there any connections between what we've gone over and what we've read?
Yeah, I think that we're trying to get into like the conflict styles that people have. So Catherine is trying to figure out the way that everyone in the team is working, where it seems like they have meetings and everyone disagrees with what people are saying, but nobody's verbalizing it. So she's trying to find out, get to the bottom of that and try and see how they can get to share their ideas. And one of the things, there's a lack of trust between the team members.
Yeah, it's a very close correlation between what we're reading and what's happened here. It's amazing to see, everybody just going their own separate ways. They weren't really working together in any fashion to be able to succeed, and that's crucial. You can all be going to work, but if you're not willing to work together, then you're not going to have a successful outcome in the end. So,
just like the rowing team.
Yeah, another great example. Okay, so let me share with you the rest of the story. This is interesting how this ends. Okay, the rest of the story is that after McDonald's February 5th, 2008 email, Green took the offensive against his boss. He crafted a series of memorandums, emails, reports, and projections that exposed inaccuracy and creative forecasting. This data enabled Green to build some alliances with other marketing personnel who used the data to ultimately side with him. On April 4th, it was announced that Frank Davis was being moved laterally to an undefined special project. However, Green's tactics were seen as overly brutal by many in the company, and although he won the battle against his boss, his career was temporarily marred. McDonald distanced herself from him. By July of 2008, Green announced he was resigning from his position in full-time studies for an MBA. We can speculate what would have occurred if Green had tried to help work out the discrepancies and problems with forecasts, and both would have succeeded. So it's sad to see how this thing turned out. Here McDonald totally distanced herself. He had people, his tactics brutal, and it harmed him. And he had to end up resigning because he wasn't willing to work with the boss. What it boiled down to. So, anybody else have any last comments?
Do we know who's doing the meeting and recording for next week?
Carla, right? Or is it? Oh, let's see. Oh, Barbara. Barbara, do you have them next week?
Yeah, I was just looking at the thing. I do. I have I do the directing, and Carla does the recording.
Okay.
Okay,
We're on it. We got it.
great job.
So everybody, have a great week. Thank you for your participation. Good luck getting your assignment turned in tonight.
Thank
I'll be
you.
feverishly getting it done. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.